The notification lit up my phone at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything. Forbes magazine. Congratulations, Ms. Chen. Your profile goes live tomorrow. I stared at those words, my coffee going cold in my hand. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. The entire world would see my name on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Net worth, $127 million. And my parents? They still thought I was waiting tables. You see, 3 years ago, my mother looked me dead in the eyes at my brother's medical school graduation and said, "Why can't you be more like Marcus? You'll never be as successful as your brother Elena. Never." I just smiled, nodded, and walked away. Because I knew something they didn't. Something that would make that moment so much sweeter when the truth finally came out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all started. To the day I realized my own family saw me as nothing more than a disappointment. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you most, if you've ever been compared to someone else and found lacking, if you've ever dreamed of proving every single doubter catastrophically wrong, then you need to hear this story. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't already, and buckle up, because what you're about to hear is one of the most satisfying revenge stories of pure, calculated vindication you'll ever experience. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single second of this. Growing up in the Chen household meant growing up in Marcus's shadow. And God, what a shadow it was. Marcus was 3 years older than me. And from the moment he could walk, he was perfect. Straight A's without trying. Captain of the debate team. Varsity tennis. Early acceptance to Princeton. Then Johns Hopkins Medical School. My parents, first generation immigrants who'd sacrificed everything to build their accounting firm in Seattle. They worshipped the ground Marcus walked on. And honestly, I didn't blame them at first. He was impressive. But here's the thing about being the second child when the first is a prodigy. You stop being seen as your own person. You become a comparison point, a measuring stick that always comes up short. I remember being 12 years old, bringing home a report card with 5 A's and 1 B+ in advanced chemistry. I was so proud. I'd worked my ass off for those grades. My father barely glanced at it. B+? He said, his voice flat. Marcus never got less than an A in any subject. You need to try harder, Elena. No good job. No, we're proud of you. Just disappointment. That became the soundtrack of my childhood. Marcus did it better. Marcus did it faster. Why can't you be more like your brother? When I was 16, I started getting interested in technology. I taught myself to code using free online resources, staying up until 2 a.m. on school nights, my eyes burning from staring at screens filled with Python and JavaScript. I built my first app, a simple task manager with a clean interface, and I was thrilled. I showed it to my parents at dinner, my laptop balanced on my knees, my heart hammering with excitement. My mother looked at it for maybe 10 seconds. "That's nice, dear," she said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. "But shouldn't you be focusing on your schoolwork? Your SAT scores aren't going to improve themselves." Marcus scored a 1580. Of course he did. My father didn't even look up from his phone. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision. If they weren't going to see me, I'd make sure they couldn't ignore me. I'd become so successful, so undeniably accomplished, that they'd have to acknowledge me. I just didn't know it would take burning every bridge with them to get there. Fast forward to age 22. I'd graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in computer science, not an Ivy League school like Marcus, which my parents never let me forget. By then, I'd been working on something big. For 2 years, late at night after my classes and my part-time job at a coffee shop, I'd been developing an AI-powered financial planning app called FinanceFlow. It used machine learning to analyze spending patterns, predict future expenses, and provide personalized saving strategies for people who couldn't afford traditional financial advisors. It was brilliant. I knew it was brilliant. I'd even started getting traction. 5,000 users in the beta phase, angel investors reaching out, meetings scheduled with venture capital firms. But I hadn't told my parents. Not yet. I wanted to wait until I had something concrete, something they couldn't dismiss. Then came Marcus's medical school graduation. The entire family flew out to Baltimore. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. The ceremony was at this gorgeous venue, and afterward, there was a reception at an expensive restaurant my parents had rented out. Everyone kept toasting Marcus, talking about Dr. Chen, the neurosurgeon. My father literally cried during his speech about how proud he was. I sat there picking at my salmon, feeling invisible. After dinner, I was standing near the bar when my mother approached with my Aunt Linda. They didn't see me at first. I was partially hidden behind a decorative pillar. "Elena's 22 now, isn't she?" Aunt Linda asked. "What's she doing?" I perked up, thinking maybe finally my mother would tell someone about my app, my work, my potential. My mother sighed. Actually sighed. "Still trying to find herself?" she said. And I could hear the air quotes in her voice. "She's got some little computer hobby. Makes coffee for a living. We're hoping she'll eventually apply for a real master's program. Maybe get a stable job. But honestly, Linda, I've accepted that Elena will never be as successful as Marcus. She just doesn't have his drive, his brilliance." My aunt made a sympathetic sound. "That must be hard for you." "You have no idea," my mother replied. I stood there, frozen, my champagne glass trembling in my hand. The bar noise faded to a dull roar in my ears. Never be as successful as Marcus. Just doesn't have his drive. Computer hobby. Something inside me cracked, then hardened, like molten glass cooling into something sharp and unbreakable. I set down my glass, walked straight past them without a word, and left the reception. I didn't say goodbye to anyone, not even Marcus, who honestly hadn't done anything wrong except exist as the comparison, point my parents wielded like a weapon. On the flight back to Seattle, I made another decision. I would never tell them about FinanceFlow until it was too big to ignore. Until I'd become so successful that my name was everywhere, and they'd have to confront their own blindness. And until that moment, radio silence. The next 3 years were a blur of code. Pitch meetings, rejections, small victories, and massive breakthroughs. I stopped answering my parents' calls except for a brief text every few weeks. "I'm fine. Busy with work?" That was it. No details. No explanations. They thought I was still serving lattes. Let them. I met my co-founder, Jamie Rodriguez, at a tech networking event. She was a financial analyst who'd seen the fintech gap I was trying to fill and had the business acumen I lacked. Together, we were unstoppable. Our first major funding round brought in $2.3 million. I was 23. By 24, FinanceFlow had 500,000 active users and partnerships with 3 major banks. At 25, we closed a Series B funding round for $45 million. The work was brutal. 18-hour days, sleeping in my office, living on takeout and cold brew coffee, pivoting when things didn't work, celebrating small wins with my team at 2 a.m. after successful product launches. But God, it was exhilarating. My parents? They kept calling occasionally. I kept the conversations short. "How are you, Elena?" "Good, Mom. Busy." "Still at that coffee shop?" A pause. I'd quit the coffee shop 2 years ago, but I never corrected her. "Yeah, Mom. Still there." "Well, Marcus just bought a house in Boston. 4 bedrooms. He's doing so well at the hospital." "That's great. I'm happy for him. Maybe you should visit him sometime. He could give you career advice." I'd smile to myself, looking out my office window at the Seattle skyline, knowing that FinanceFlow's valuation had just hit $380 million. "Maybe, Mom, listen, I have to go." Marcus tried harder to stay in touch. He'd text me every few weeks, casual brother stuff. I responded, but kept it surface level. This wasn't about him. It never was. He actually called me once, concerned. "Elena, are you okay?" "Mom and Dad say you've been distant." "I'm fine." "Marcus, really just busy." "Busy with what?" "They said you're still working at a cafe." "It's complicated." "But I promise I'm good." "How's residency?" I'd redirect and he'd let me, because Marcus was actually a decent guy who respected boundaries. Last year, everything exploded. We launched FinanceFlow Premium, our subscription service with advanced AI features. We hit 3.2 million users. Revenue went through the roof. 3 major acquisition offers came in. Google offered $890 million. I turned them all down. Then, 6 months ago, we closed our Series C funding round. $160 million. FinanceFlow's valuation? $1.2 billion. I owned 42% of the company. Do the math. At 25 years old, I was worth over $500 million on paper. Liquid assets? About $127 million after some strategic stock sales and a secondary offering. Forbes came calling 3 months ago. Ms. Chen, we'd like to feature you in our 30 under 30 list. Your story is remarkable. They wanted to do a full profile, interviews, photo shoot, the works. I agreed. On one condition, they couldn't publish until I gave them the green light. I needed to plan this perfectly. The Forbes profile was scheduled to go live on a Wednesday. I scheduled a family dinner at my parents' house for Tuesday night. The call to my mother was brief. Mom, I'd like to come over for dinner next week. Tuesday, is that okay? She sounded surprised. I hadn't visited in over a year. Of course, honey. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I think it's time we talked. Is Marcus in town? He's visiting this weekend and staying through next week, actually. Perfect. Great. See you Tuesday at 7. That week felt like the longest of my life. I was vibrating with anticipation. Jamie knew what I was planning and thought I was slightly insane. You're really going to just drop this bomb on them? She asked, half laughing in disbelief. Oh, I'm not dropping anything, I said, smiling. I'm going to let them find out naturally. I'm just going to be there to watch. I'd arranged everything perfectly. The Forbes article would go live at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. But the magazine would hit newsstands Tuesday evening, around 8 p.m. in Seattle. I bought 15 copies from different locations around the city and had them delivered to my assistant. I asked her to place them at every major newsstand, bookstore, and cafe within a 2-mile radius of my parents' house. Overkill? Maybe. But after years of being invisible, I wanted to make sure I was impossible to miss. Tuesday night arrived. I dressed carefully. Nothing too flashy. Jeans, a nice silk blouse, leather jacket. I wanted to look exactly like the Elena they expected. The struggling barista daughter. I drove my Tesla to their house. I'd bought it 6 months ago, but had never posted about it on social media. My parents weren't on Instagram anyway. My mother answered the door and her face lit up with genuine happiness. Despite everything, she did love me. She just didn't see me. Elena, come in, come in! The house smelled like my childhood. Soy sauce, ginger, my mother's famous braised pork. My chest tightened unexpectedly. Marcus was in the living room, and he stood up when I entered, pulling me into a hug. Hey, stranger. Long time? Hey, Marcus. My father came out from his study, looking older than I remembered. When did his hair get so gray? Elena, he said, nodding. Not quite a smile, but not cold either. We sat down to dinner, and it was nice. Weirdly nice. Normal conversation about Marcus's work. Their accounting business. Neighborhood gossip. My mother asked about me finally. So, Elena, how have you been? Really? I smiled, taking a bite of rice. Really good, actually, Mom. Things are going well. Still at the coffee shop? Here we go. No, actually. I left there a while ago. Her face brightened. Oh? Did you find something else? Please tell me you're finally considering grad school. I've been working on my own thing, I said carefully. A tech startup. My father made a sound. Not quite dismissive, but close. Elena, we've talked about this. Those tech startups, 90% fail. You need stability, benefits. Maybe Marcus could help you get an administrative position at his hospital? Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Dad, I'm sure Elena knows what she's doing. I appreciate the concern, I said, my voice steady. But I'm actually doing fine. Really fine? How fine can you be? My mother asked, and I could hear the worry. The doubt. Elena, you barely call. You never visit. We just want to make sure you're okay financially. If you need help, I don't need help, Mom. Honey, there's no shame in accepting that some people are built for different things. You're creative, you're smart in your own way. But maybe entrepreneurship isn't... I set down my chopsticks. I made $127 million last year, Mom. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. My mother's mouth literally fell open. My father froze mid-reach for the soy sauce. Marcus's eyes went wide. "What?" my father finally said. "My company, FinanceFlow. We're valued at $1.2 billion. I own 42%. Forbes is publishing my profile tomorrow morning. I'm on the 30 under 30 list." More silence. That's not possible," my mother whispered. I pulled out my phone, pulled up my company's website, and slid it across the table. "That's me, CEO and co-founder." They stared at the screen, at my professional photo, at the press releases, at the user statistics, the funding announcements. "Elena," Marcus said, and he was smiling, genuinely smiling. Holy shit. This is incredible. But my parents? They looked stunned, confused, almost disbelieving. "Why didn't you tell us?" my father asked, and for the first time in my life, I heard something that might have been heard in his voice. And here's where I could have been kind, could have said something gentle, but I'd waited 3 years for this moment. "Why didn't I tell you?" I repeated softly. "Because you never asked." "Not really." "Elena, that's not fair," my mother started. "Isn't it?" I cut her off and my voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "For 3 years, you thought I was working at a coffee shop. You never once asked for details. Never asked to visit me. Never asked what I was really doing with my life. You were so secretive. Because I was building something." The words burst out of me. I was working 18-hour days, raising millions in funding, creating something that's helped millions of people manage their finances. And you know what you said about it? You called it my little computer hobby. My mother's face went pale. "You heard that? At Marcus's graduation. At the bar. You told Aunt Linda I'd never be as successful as Marcus, that I didn't have his drive or brilliance." I watched her hand fly to her mouth, watched the memory crash over her. "Elena, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I needed that. Maybe I needed to prove you wrong. But here's the thing, Mom, Dad. I waited. I could have told you 100 times. When we got our first funding round, when we hit our first 1 million users, when Forbes called, I leaned forward. But I wanted you to find out like everyone else. I wanted you to see my name in a magazine and realize that while you were asking if I needed help finding a stable job, I was building an empire." My father's face had gone red. "Elena, we have always wanted what's best for you. No, you wanted me to be Marcus. And when I wasn't, when I chose my own path, you stopped seeing me at all." Marcus cleared his throat. "For what it's worth, I think what you did is amazing. And I'm sorry if my existence made things harder." I looked at my brother, and my expression softened. "Marcus, this was never about you. You've always been supportive. This is about them." I turned back to my parents. "I love you both. I really do. But I needed you to understand what it felt like. To be invisible in your own family, to work yourself to exhaustion, and have your own mother ask if you're still at that coffee shop. To be 25 years old and worth more than you'll make in 10 lifetimes. And have your father offer to help you get an administrative job." Tears were streaming down my mother's face now. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. I was so focused on Marcus's path, the path I understood, that Her voice broke. "I failed you. We failed you." My father, who I'd never seen cry, had tears in his eyes too. "Your mother's right," he said, his voice rough. "We were wrong. We were so wrong about you. And here's the thing about revenge. The thing nobody tells you. It doesn't always feel as good as you think it will. Seeing them broken like this, seeing genuine remorse, genuine recognition, it filled the hollow place inside me. But it also hurt in a way I hadn't expected. "I don't need you to grovel," I said quietly. "I just need you to see me. The real me. Not as Marcus's little sister. Not as a disappointment, just me." My mother stood up, came around the table, and pulled me into a hug. She was shaking. "I see you," she whispered. "I see you, Elena, and I am so proud of you." My father joined the hug, and then Marcus, and we stood there in their dining room, all 4 of us crying. And maybe, just maybe, starting to heal. The Forbes article went live the next morning. My phone exploded. Interview requests. Congratulations from colleagues. Old friends from high school reaching out. The works. My parents' friends saw it. Their clients saw it. Aunt Linda called my mother and apparently talked for 2 hours straight. My parents called me that morning. Elena, we just read the article, my mother said. You're incredible. We're showing everyone. We're so proud. Thanks, Mom. Can we start over? Can we learn about your life? Really learn? I smiled, looking out my office window at downtown Seattle. Yeah, Mom, we can start over. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about proving them wrong so completely that they have no choice but to confront their own blindness. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it satisfying? Absolutely. But more than that, it was necessary. Sometimes people need to be shocked into seeing what was right in front of them all along. If this story gave you chills, if you've ever been underestimated and dreamed of a moment like this, smash that like button right now. And tell me in the comments, have you ever proven someone catastrophically wrong? Or are you still working on your revenge success story? I want to hear about it. Subscribe for more stories of justice, vindication, and people getting exactly what they deserve, whether that's karma or a feature in Forbes. Until next time, stay hungry, stay driven, and never let anyone tell you what you're capable of. You know your worth. Make them see it too.